Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, the President, as Commander-in-Chief, shall take care that all laws be faithfully executed. This is one of only two formal powers the President has. Congress creates the laws and the President enforces the laws. As the enforcer, President Obama has enforced certain laws, such as the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, the Credit Card Reform Bill, and the post-9/11 GI Bill. The other formal power of the President is that the President, as Commander-in-Chief, shall make appointments anywhere from judges to members of his cabinet and more. The President appoints federal agencies and the Senate approves them.
The President has many informal powers, such as executive orders, executive privileges, and executive agreements. An executive order is an order issued by the President that is in essence a law, but is usually on a smaller scale than a national law. Congress does not need to approve executive orders. For instance, President Obama created the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Order, an executive order aimed at aiding the Gulf Coast following the April 2010 BP oil spill. Neither Congress nor the Supreme Court could have negated Obama's executive order because it was an executive order that had constitutional basis. Executive agreements are international treaties that do not usually involve Congress. For example, President Barack Obama signed what he called an executive agreement when he signed the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement on October 1st, 2011. Finally, executive privilege is an informal power that the chief executive has that lets him keep any conversation or document private that he has especially confidential with cabinet members inside the White House. President Obama exercised executive privilege when he kept confidential his documents about Operation Fast and Furious, the ATF gunwalking scandal in June 2012. The President also has other informal powers, such as the impoundment of funds and the way they set up his White House. Impoundment of funds is when a president denies money given to him for a certain cause, and Obama agrees with this power. As for the setup of the White House, the President can pick between an ad hoc, circular, or pyramidal setup. Obama's White House is most likely a pyramid structure.
Even though the framers envisioned a smaller role for the President than currently exists, the President, as Commander-in-Chief, still has a few formal and informal restrictions on him. The main formal check on the President is the Supreme Court, and the justices make sure that the President is constitutional with his actions. The first informal check on the Chief Executive is that executive orders must have constitutional reasoning and be published in the Federal Register. Another informal check on the Chief Executive is that the next President can influence Congress to revoke the President's action. This is what presidential candidate Romney was threatening to do to health care. The final informal check on the President is that the people mold the President's actions.
As Chief Executive of the United States, President Obama is the most powerful man in the world, yet has clearly defined limits on his power.
As the 44th President of the United States, Obama continues the long line of modern presidents coming in with a legislative plan. Although the Constitution gives Congress, not the President, all legislative powers, modern presidents play a larger role in legislation than the founders anticipated, and Obama is no different. The Constitution gives the President the formal power to sign or veto bills and deliver a State of the Union address to all three branches of government. But even more important to his role as chief legislator are his informal powers, which include creating a legislative agenda and using various tactics to convince Congress to pass it. Beginning his presidency during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, Obama quickly worked with Congress to pass the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Although Congress voted in favor of the act, Obama took credit, saying that it fulfilled many of his campaign promises.
To people of all parties, that I would do all that I could to give every American the chance to make of their lives what they will, to see their children climb higher than they did. And I'm back today to say that we have begun the difficult work of keeping that promise. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act that I will sign today, a plan that meets the principles I laid out in January, is the most sweeping economic recovery package in our history.
It seems like President Obama was off to a great legislative start, but no Republicans in the House and only 3 in the Senate supported the bill, foreshadowing later legislative problems for Obama. But with a Democratic majority in both the Senate and the House, Obama pushed forward, calling a joint session of Congress in February 2009, urging them to pass the health care reform bill, which eventually passed in April of 2010 as the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
No longer afford to put health care reform on hold. We can't afford to do it. It's time.
During his first 2 years in office, Obama was able to sign many laws, like the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act and the Dodd-Frank Law, which regulated Wall Street. But after the 2010 midterm elections, where Republicans took control of the House, Washington was in a political gridlock that would not allow hardly any laws to be passed. In the summer of 2011, a standoff between Barack Obama and the Democrats, and John Boehner, Speaker of the House, and the Republicans over whether or not to raise the debt ceiling almost led to a financial crisis. Then, in September of 2011, Obama again called a joint session of Congress, this time to try to pass the American Jobs Act, but he was not met with success.
I am sending this Congress a plan that you should pass right away. It's called the American Jobs Act. The purpose of the American Jobs Act is simple: to put more people back to work and more money in the pockets of those who are working.
Televised nationally, the address was an attempt to get public opinion behind the bill, forcing House Republicans to sign it. But the Republicans did not budge. Obama's powers as chief legislator went far beyond anything the founders would have expected, yet he was still held back and checked by opposing forces in Congress and public opinion.
All those folks who fought for change in 2008, we've got to fight for change in 2010.
The president runs for office, puts everything into his campaign, and gets elected. So he's done with the campaign for good, right? Wrong.
While the president holds many important positions, titles, and has many important duties, one of the most important is the position of party leader. The president is the most powerful and highest official in his political party. As this official, the president has to help members of his political party get elected or appointed to office. He campaigns for members who have supported him and his policies, which eventually helps him gain support from members of his party if and when he runs for re-election. President Obama has had numerous occasions to act as party leader, mainly because of the midterm elections for the House of Representatives and Senate in 2010. Early in the election, Obama visited Virginia to obtain an endorsement from former Virginia Governor L. Douglas Wilder for the state's Democratic candidate R. Craig Deeds. He mainly did this because the former governor had recently endorsed the Republican candidate, Robert F. McDonnell, and wanted him to switch positions. Also, to endorse Deeds, Obama was featured in a radio ad airing on black radio stations in Virginia.
Obama also visited Western battleground states in 2010 to support Harry Reid and get him re-elected in Nevada.
Using his power as party leader during this time, Obama endorsed numerous candidates, including Senator Arlen Specter, hoping to help him get re-elected. Obama has headlined a Democratic National Committee fundraiser, held town hall meetings, and has spoken to numerous business leaders to secure votes for Democratic candidates. Unfortunately for Obama, his campaigning did not pay off as well as he had hoped. The Republicans took control of the House of Representatives, making Boehner the new Speaker of the House. However, the Democrats did gain control of the Senate.
One of the most important roles of the President as Commander-in-Chief is to serve as the leader of the U.S. military. Under the President's direction, the United States can carry out retaliatory invasions, such as the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001. Wars can be indirectly prompted or unprompted, as with the U.S. invasions of Iraq in 1990 and 2003. U.S. military involvement can be massive, like that in Vietnam and Korea. The President can also strike from the air, as occurred against Iraq under President Bill Clinton in 1998, or the Special Forces invasion of Panama in 1989. The United States can also commit troops to larger organizations, of which it is a member, like NATO and the United Nations.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. It was nearly 10 years ago that a bright September day was darkened by the worst.
Although the Constitution gives only Congress the power to declare war, it charges the executive with carrying out the war as commander-in-chief. Congress has authorized the use of force by the military, but has only formally declared war in the U.S. history 5 times. All other U.S. military action throughout its history has been under presidential order.
As party leader, do you think that President Obama is an imperial president?
I would say yes, because the party leader position wasn't originally in the Constitution, and nowadays the president has so much access to television and radio that gives him a lot more power than the original presidents didn't have.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he's an imperial president as far as being the party leader goes, but as chief legislator, I still think that there are a lot of checks on his power. He needs Congress to go along with whatever legislation he wants to pass, and especially when the opposite party is in control of the House or Senate, he can't get that done. So he still really isn't an all-powerful president as far as legislation goes.
Obama, as chief executive, is most certainly an imperial president because as the power of Congress grows to make more and more laws, the role of the president to enforce those laws also gets bigger and bigger. So for instance, the $787 billion stimulus package that Barack Obama helped influence, also he has to enforce, which creates a bigger role on the president.
Barack Obama is an imperial president regarding his role as commander-in-chief. He basically has the power to bring the country into war at any time he wants, and holds a lot more power than Congress concerning war in the military. He has the ability to basically send troops anywhere he wants in the world. These powers make him an imperial commander-in-chief.